And welcome back to Who Would Win. This one comes to us from Count Vertigo, who asked the question, who would win the fight, Lobo versus Wolverine? Now, similar characters, they have regenerating healing factors, they're the gruff anti-hero and protagonists, or occasional villain, depending on which comic you're reading. This was already actually done in the Amalgam Universe crossovers when they had Marvel versus DC. Fans, however, were the ones who voted on who won, so when the actual fight happened, we didn't actually see it go down, but Wolverine was the one who actually won. But that was through fan voting. Who wins when you actually break these guys down? Well, if you actually know these characters in depth, it's actually a pretty easy answer. But let's be fair. Let's bring it in. Let's talk about it. So, Wolverine, James Howlett, Logan, was born in the roughly, I want to say it was the late 1800s. He's close to like 200 years old. He's Canadian. He is a mutant. He is a mutant with several different mutations, but his main one is his healing factor. His healing factor allows him to regenerate lost tissue, cells, everything pretty much in a rapid succession. Most like superficial wounds heal up like that. Bigger wounds might take a bit, well, like a giant like that. It might take him a few moments to heal from, but he eventually will heal from that. A couple examples of his healing factor at play are when he was blown to hell by Nitro, who literally has the ability to explode with the power of a bomb. Wolverine took that to the face. His whole flesh was incinerated, but because his brain's encased in adamantium, he actually still was able to recover from that. It just took a little while to do so. A couple other examples. At least in the Ultimate Universe, he healed from being torn in half by the Hulk. Now, in the actual continuity, I don't believe Wolverine's ever been torn in half like that. He survived. Granted, his healing factor was burnt out doing this, having all the adamantium ripped out of his body by Magneto. Wolverine's healing factor doesn't really have any sort of upper limit unless you're able to completely and utterly incinerate him or kill his brain. Wolverine, though, also has many other abilities to him. He has superhuman abilities in terms of his physicality. He's on the low end of superhuman in terms of his strength, but he does have a degree of super strength. Endurance and durability is through the roof. And endurance particularly. Wolverine can just keep going for days and days and days without tiring because his healing factor helps counterbalance that kind of stuff. Enhanced senses. He can smell and see and hear all. He can track individuals with his nose. He can hear individuals from probably, I think, like a mile off. His eyesight, he can see pretty well in the dark. He almost pretty much has night vision. He's also got a Berserker Rage. You hurt him enough, he'll go into basically a mindless Berserker state and animalistic rage and just tear at you. And, of course, his claws. His claws are actually part of his mutation. Originally, it wasn't the case, but they did more or less retcon that with Wolverine Origins. Was it Wolverine Origins, or was it when Magneto tore out his skeleton? I think it was when Magneto actually tore his skeleton out. That was in the actual reveal that his claws are actually bone claw, made of like super hard bone, capable of cutting through most materials. It's just they got coated in adamantium. And obviously we're using a Wolverine as he is not right now because he's currently been resurrected, and I believe they give him the ability to superheat his claws. We're not going to do that because I don't think that's been 100% confirmed or explained, so we're not going to do that. Wolverine, though, has his skeleton encased in adamantium, a metal that in the Marvel Universe is really only superseded by a couple. Uru, for instance, kind of can supersede it, but only when you're channeling magical energies into it. Otherwise, adamantium is actually the stronger of the two. Vibranium can absorb, is not quite as durable, but it can absorb more, They can absorb more energy given the nature of vibranium. And Antarctic vibranium can actually destabilize the molecular bonds between metals, including adamantium, basically melt adamantium. So, but adamantium, for what it is pretty much indestructible, unless you're going against someone who with cosmic level abilities of damaging things, or just, possibly planetary. It's not a planet busting, like the Hulk, for instance. In the Ultimate Universe, the Hulk is actually able to dent Wolverine's adamantium rib. And there's different grades of adamantium. For instance, Thor has destroyed adamantium, but that was secondary adamantium. It wasn't actually primary adamantium. Wolverine has like true. Well, there's true. There's like beta or something like that, or bio. Basically, true, but when it's integrated with the human bones and things along those lines. Secondary, which is a slightly weaker variant. Wolverine has the actual, like, the real stuff in him. Wolverine has the hard as hell stuff in him that even Thor, I think, would have, even if he could destroy it, would have even a harder time destroying it. Also, molecular manipulation, reality warping, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of, like, because, well, let's be clear, Lobo's not going to be using magic or reality warping or anything like that, or molecular manipulation. No, he's just going to be using pretty much his fists. I don't, like, for instance, me and a buddy of mine, the powers that be, as he doesn't like to be named, had a discussion, like, could Wolverine theoretically kill Superman? Is Wolverine's adamantium claws sharp enough and durable enough to pierce Superman and kill him? And we deduced that if Wolverine were to hit him with enough force, yes. But it's one of those things that doesn't mean Superman couldn't destroy Wolverine's adamant skeleton. I think because of the nature of it, it'd be extremely hard even for Superman to do. But he probably, with enough pounding and enough power from Superman, I think he could. It's just a matter of could-he-would-he kind of thing. Oh, excuse me. I felt that coming up for a little bit, so I wanted to get that out of the way. So, but still, Wolverine has been alive for hundreds of years. Been in pretty much every war you can think of, he's been in. Almost every war, except for some of the modern wars. Like, I don't think he was in like Desert Storm and beyond, but things like Nam, Civil, both World War I and II, Korea. He's been in pretty much every war you can think of, leading up until the 70s, give or take. Master hand-to-hand combatancy. He's a master physical fighter. He's also surprisingly intelligent. He can exploit a weakness so long as he's not going into a berserker state, because he is a trained soldier and warrior and fighter. So, and ninja and samurai. Wolverine has always been a comic favorite of a lot of people, and I'd be lying if I said he isn't one of my favorite Marvel characters too. Not saying necessarily one of my favorite comic book characters, though he's probably like in the top 10. But he is definitely one of my favorite comic characters. Let's be honest, he's a lot of our favorite comic characters. And people say, "Oh, he's overrated." Now, are you saying that because you don't like him, or are you saying that just to stir the pot, as it will? Don't disturb the shits, I just take them, or whatever. Or what was it? I don't take the shits, I just disturb them. That's how Deadpool put it. In Deadpool. Anyway, Lobo, or the main man, as he puts it. He's the last. Oh God, what's the name of this species? He is the last. Screw it, I'm gonna look it up. He's the last of his kind, because he actually, with our science project, genocided. What would be the plural on genocide? Or is genocide already plural? Basically, he committed mass genocide of his entire people as a science project, and he gave himself an A for it. Lobo is someone who we need to see on the big screen at some point, because I think he will definitely attract an audience, because there's an audience for that kind of anti-hero, gruff, one-liner spewing anti-hero badass. Because we've seen Venom, we've seen Deadpool, Logan on some regard. Excuse me. So, I think we need Lobo in our lives at some point on the big screen. I think it would have to be R-rated, though. I mean, you could do it PG-13, but it's kind of like Deadpool. You could have gone PG-13 with Deadpool, but it worked out better as an R, let's be honest. Because we've actually now seen what a PG-13 Deadpool would look like with Once Upon a Deadpool, which does prove PG-13 Deadpool can work, but when you start with R and go to PG-13, you can see what the problem lies. Lobo, I think you could do as a PG-13, but I think we'd prefer it as an R. Anywho, I digress. So Lobo's powers, at least his physicality, has fluctuated over the years. We'll use him because I'm sure people will say, "Oh, use him as the strongest," because in some incarnations, he's not much stronger than an average guy of that build. Which, to be fair, he's usually in pretty good shape, so he's pretty strong for that. But in other cases, he's able to go blow for blow with Superman. So we'll use that incarnation. I'll do two versions, honestly. We'll do the weaker version we got in the earlier days, and then we'll get like the Lobo we know and love, the more powerful version of him. Lobo is also a master hand-to-hand fighter. He has a motorcycle that lets him travel at light speed through space, for God's sake. He's capable of using multiple. He's a proficient weapons user. Guns. He likes to use a chain a lot of the time. A chain with a hook. But anything that suits his needs, he'll use it. Lobo's real advantage, though, is twofold. One, neither heaven nor hell want him. So if he were to somehow die, his soul would just linger. And on that point, it's next to impossible to actually kill him. Because Lobo's regeneration is so powerful. He actually regenerated from a drop of blood at one point, or just a pool of his own blood. He got mushed into nothing and regenerated from a pool of his own blood. He lost a couple arms at one point fighting alongside the Suicide Squad, and then it just was back together and fine within a couple minutes. In fact, it's so powerful that if you were to lose a hand, another Lobo might grow out of that hand, and then there's multiple Lobos. So then you have a problem there. And at one point, like I said, his body was gone, his soul lingered, and neither heaven or hell, it's refused or have refused to allow entry for him. So he lingered until he found a snail, possessed the snail, and reformed himself out of the snail. Lobo is really freaking hacks in terms of his durability, endurance, physical, not his strength per se. Superman's still physically stronger. He can just go toe-to-toe with Superman. But his regeneration is kind of second to none. So when putting these two up against each other, let's assume Lobo comes to Earth, maybe a wormhole or something sends us to the Marvel Universe. He's on Earth. It's like, wait, this doesn't seem like the same place I normally go to. I was like, you got that right, bub. Who the hell are you? It's like, look at you, half-pint. Oh, you're adorable. You don't know who I am. Everyone should know what I am. I'm the main man. I'm Lobo, the most feared bounty hunter in the universe. It's like, I don't really care. And it's like, so just get out of here while you still can. It's like, yeah, small fry. I'm sounding a bit more like Hercule Satan's. I would imagine there's be a similar Hercule Satan. I'm Lobo, the main man. Anyways, and so Wolverine just, shing, unsheaths the claws, to which Lobo's like, ooh, those look pointy. But come on, you don't want me to dent your pretty little claws there, my dear lady friend, or whatever. He'd probably just keep making names, keep calling Wolverine names. To which Wolverine eventually just gets fed up with him and then just attacks him. And I think he does pierce him. I think he does cut Lobo, to which Lobo is surprised, and then Wolverine just starts to rip into him a little bit. He's like, who's a sissy now, bub? And then Lobo just, I still think it's you, but I gotta say, just cracks his neck. That hurt a bit, boy. So now we're gonna have some fun. And then he just brings out the chain, throws it at Wolverine. Wolverine gets knocked by the chain. He gets wrapped up in it. Lobo pulls him towards Wolverine towards him. Wolverine cuts the chain, comes in again, just smashes him in the head, and just starts. To which Lobo just like, all right, now I'm getting pissed off, and then just grabs Wolverine, just basketballs him for a little bit, and then just throws him into a wall. Wolverine comes out berserker rage stuff, slashes up Lobo again. Lobo again just regenerates from it. So the long story short of this, Wolverine doesn't have any ability that could put Lobo down. Well, all Wolverine can do is melee damage, super fit. Even though there could be serious damage to Lobo, or it's nothing Lobo can't regenerate from, just given the high level of regeneration Lobo has. And even if you go with the older interpretation of the character with Lobo, physically Wolverine actually I think could overpower that Lobo. I think that Lobo Wolverine could overpower. But Lobo's regeneration is even greater than Wolverine, so Wolverine I think between the two of them, Wolverine would tire out first, but it'd be a really long, drawn-out fight. Just because Lobo would keep coming and coming and coming. However, I will say this. While Lobo can't necessarily be killed by conventional methods, I think he can... sorry, just adjusting something in my pocket. He can be knocked out. So I think against the older interpretation of Lobo, Wolverine could stand a shot at winning. Where against the current modern day interpretation of Lobo, Wolverine doesn't have a prayer of a chance. Sorry, Wolverine doesn't have a prayer of a chance. He pretty much doesn't bite it. I don't think Lobo kills Wolverine, but knocks him out. But I think Wolverine, because his whole body's coated in adamantium, even a punch from him is like getting hit with brass knuckles, and we're brass knuckles made of adamantium. So he could possibly knock out Lobo. So I will say 100% of the time Lobo wins when you're dealing with the modern interpretation of Lobo. But again, with the older interpretation of Lobo, I will give Wolverine I'll give him an 80%. I'll give Lobo. I think Lobo still wins because he just outlasts Wolverine at that point. But I will give Wolverine a 30% chance that he might just knock out Lobo. I think it's possible. Not likely, but it's more probable than him just straight out losing in that case. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. What do you think? Put in the comments below, let me know. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, who wants to review, send a button in the... Yeah, man, I am really stuttering over my words today. I'm sorry about that. As always, who wants to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas for who would win, Star Wars, superhero, magic, what if, anything I do on this channel, put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to a review of it at some point. It's the week of what ifs, so what ifs throughout the week. I pretty much have them lined up because I've still got 2 ongoing ones going on. But I'm intercutting other what ifs in there as well, just because I'm not going to just do a week solely of those 2. I like to, whenever I do a week of what if, I like to have at least 3 different ones to go to, so, you know, there's a bit of variety in there. But anyway, until then, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you folks next time.